So my name is Vuyiswa V, and they actually call me Vui for short. So think of Vui, then put a V, and you have Vui. So what I want to talk today is about technology. I love technology. I realize that not everyone in the room may love technology as much as I do. Now I realize I don't have the clicker. But we have definitely reached a point where technology is embedded in everything we do. I cannot help but laugh the other day. I sat in my dining room table with my mother-in-law, my nanny, and myself, so 3 incredibly intelligent women, and my son, Maximilian Constantine, in the 2nd class, 8 years old. And we were looking at his math homework. And after some time, Maximilian got completely frustrated with the 3 women that sat in front of him. And he went to the next best woman in the room, and he said, "Mama, we have to ask Alexa. She always has the answer." So although I think it's very questionable that digital assistants could soon be the tutors for our children, there is no running away from the fact that technology is very much within our personal lives, but also in the business context. And I think the ladies just before me on the panel, and all through the day, we have seen that. Yeah. But technology, when we look at the business context, began very much as a means of competitive differentiation. Fast forward a few decades, and I very much believe we've reached a point where it is the new norm. And it's this new norm, whether you're as a user, as a customer when you're shopping online, when you're a patient and you're in the hospital, when you're a passenger and you're getting on a flight, you expect that seamless integrated experience. You want it just to work. Right? This is what you want. You just want it to work, to make your life easier. And I think we can go through so many examples, but I am personally one person that learns from seeing. So I would like to invite my colleague, Vanessa. She is the Director of the User Experience and Innovation at SAP, to show you what that experience actually looks like in the world of SAP and what we are doing and working with our customers. So Vanessa, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Vui. Thank you, everyone. So as introduced, let's have a closer look at the user experience of the intelligent enterprise. Sometimes you may just want to work with a mouse and keyboard on your desktop, right? Sometimes you just want to work with a mobile device. So yes, please go ahead, pick the device you like, and enjoy the user experience we create for you for these devices. Sometimes, however, there's just no alternative to pen and paper. We can digitize the whole world, however, this power couple never gets out of style, right? And this is exactly why we look at human-computer interaction, we look at innovation, new technologies, and we tried now to digitize this pen and paper experience and match it with the magic of the intelligent enterprise. Let me show you. So imagine I'm sitting in a quarterly board review meeting, and suddenly the discussion goes towards the budget. And mine is very high. I'm not prepared well enough to answer the questions that will come up in this meeting. So I cannot interrupt the meeting and ask about some of the details. I cannot go out and call someone. So I want to do a little investigation in my personal space, ideally, without anyone noticing that I'm doing that. And I can exactly do that with my digital pen and paper. So I open this, and what I do get is a white screen, a white canvas, and this is exactly what I want, because I want to be able to creatively and intuitively explore now my data in my business context, and this is connected with my system. So what I can do now is I'm going to say show budget, and I can do that in natural language. So I write show budget, I got to check this box to send this query to the system, and then what it does is it shows me that table that everybody else is also currently focusing on. So now I'm responsible for operations, so I dig a little deeper. So I'm going to filter. Just writing for operations. Tick this off again. And now you can see the table has changed. And I continue with this analysis. Think pen and paper. I'm not interested in activity count, so I just cross it out. It's gone. And what I can see now that apparently Condax is my problem. It has a very high budget, and I assume that this might be because of the head count. So let's investigate this. And I just write add head count on my table. And that column now is added. Well, unfortunately, this is not the solution to my problem, so I'm not done with my analysis. So I can continue, and I think maybe Condax makes a huge amount of profit. So let's look into this. So I circle Condax, draw an arrow, so you see it's very intuitive symbols. I write profits. And now what happens is I get this nice graph giving me the outlook of the planned profits for Condax. So this looks really good. It's a bit too detailed for me, so I'm going to write here quarterly. And now I get a nice high-level overview. Now I want to compare the top and bottom line, so I also add the revenue. It does know my nice handwriting already. And I have now this graph showing me this comparison. And there's one more little thing I want to show you here. If now I think, well, maybe I should also look into another company, I don't have to do this complete complex analysis again. I just go back to that table here, and now I can scroll. And that doesn't work if you are nervous and have wet fingers. It does. And now I can scroll, and now I see the same graph down here with that other company. So ladies and gentlemen, this is it. This is one of the most intuitive user experience we have recently created at SAP. And with this, I hand back over to you, Vui. Thank you.
And why did I want to show this? It's to show that we've reached a point of natural interaction with such digital devices. But that is only possible, and I still very much believe in pen and paper, I want to say. That is only possible with the actual underlying technology. And that's what I want to talk to you about, what I feel are the top 4 or 5 underlying technologies that are going to be key for 2019 and beyond, but more importantly, the value that they can bring for your business. So the first one is artificial intelligence. And I think we've used this term a few times already today. Already, we are leveraging artificial intelligence in platforms, in services, in the applications. So it comes as absolutely, or it should come as absolutely no surprise that this will be the biggest topic, or the hottest topic in the area of technology for 2019 and beyond. It's just hands down how it will be. But when you actually look at the term artificial intelligence, it's actually a broader term to describe different types of actually technology underneath it. So you've probably heard of machine learning, neural networks, natural language processing, and. But all of these technologies' objective is the same, and that is to take converge machines with elements of the human brain. And this is for reasoning, for logic, for problem solving. You know, McKinsey's estimating that when you bring all of these technologies together, we have the potential to create anywhere from 3.5 trillion all the way up to 6 trillion annually. US dollars. And I always find it amazing that we talk about such numbers. I can remember 16 and thinking 1 million was a lot of money. We're now talking about trillions. And so this only underlines, I think, the immense opportunity that we actually have and the value to be created. But when we talk about that value, there are some hard prerequisites that are needed. And the first one is really quite obvious, but for some reason continues to elude us. And that is, as business leaders, we need to understand where artificial intelligence can be used and where it cannot be used. That needs to be made very clear now, because once you can apply that to your core business processes and new products, it will make things a lot easier. And the second thing, comes to, and I think the panel discussed this, the actual skills. When you look at the AI projects and how they're currently done in companies, it still continues to be some kind of alchemy somewhere on an island that is done by these data scientist wizards. And unfortunately, their talents or their skills are not able to scale within the organization. So even if you figured out the what, you know what problem you want to solve, if you don't then have the people to do it, the technology has not helped you. And then I think the last one, and finally, that is data itself. We have heard that data is the new currency, data is the new oil, data is the new God, and it is all of the above. It is all of the above. However, we still, as companies, need to figure out how to first put our hands around the data. So we have the employee data here, we have the customer data here, and someone else is holding the vendor data here. And can you imagine when you've tried to do something, you're like, who do I call because I need to figure this out? But we have to somehow take that data and figure out how we can actually break it out of its silos, I guess you could say. So first of all, can you wrap your hands, how you can manage to give the data purpose if you're truly going to become able to play in this area of artificial intelligence. So this actually takes me to my next trend that's very much dependent on the developments of artificial intelligence, and that's autonomous things. So in my very small world, my first foray into autonomous things actually began with the vacuum cleaner. So the thing about me, when I'm very stressed or I need to think about something, I vacuum. I have no idea, but I vacuum. My mother loved it. My husband hates it. Because at 3 o'clock in the morning, I can vacuum, right? So because vacuuming is my therapy, it was not an option. I like it too much, so I wasn't going to go to an autonomous thing. But as I was vacuuming, I'd look out to the garden. I saw the lawnmower. And let me tell you, I bought my autonomous lawnmower, the little robot, and I have absolutely no regrets. But the thing about using AI in these things, whether it is in your lawnmower, whether it is in the car, whether it is in the robot, is that it takes out all need for the human intervention, right? We're at a point now where these autonomous things are now able to actually talk to each other. So imagine that you have a drone, like you see here. The drone is actually flying over a field. The drone sees that it's actually ready for harvest, at which point it's able to dispatch the autonomous harvester to harvest the crop. This is currently what we can do with our software. What I want to say about such projects is they are still extremely expensive, and they take a very, very long time to actually implement, and they require vast amounts of data. So currently, you estimate they probably need about 15,000 data pieces per tenth of a second. As the algorithms become even more advanced, up to 200,000 data pieces per tenth of a second. So I think this only highlights, as we look, how much more research and development we need to continue to do in the area of big data, in AI itself, Internet of Things, and also around cloud technology, which I would touch on later. I know there is a great deal of debate around, AI, autonomous things, and what it means for society. I will not touch on that for today, or as this could turn into a 2-hour keynote. But it is a discussion, of course, that needs to happen. When we talk about from a business perspective, I want to say, the opportunities truly are endless in what can be done. Hala, my colleague, sat on stage of some of the things that we're doing in the digital supply chain space. Or I also know I invest in startups as an angel investor here, working with hospitals, what we can do from a customer service. But you also think about these autonomous things that I also spoke about and how they're actually working together and doing things. The opportunities truly are endless, and I also know I can say, just when I think about my lawnmower, how it can actually do for our lives. It can bring a great deal of value, and in many cases, make our lives all the more easier. But to enable these autonomous things to work together, a certain level of trust is needed between the things. And so this brings me to blockchain. Often, when people go to blockchain, they automatically think of cryptocurrencies and bitcoins. But there are other ways you can use it. The underlying blockchain technology relies on a distributed ledger that promises to reshape industries by enabling trust. Today, trust is placed in banks, clearinghouses, governments, whether that's right or wrong in some places, and many other institutions. So these central authorities, right, that are supposed to hold the single version of the truths. But these central trust models also often create delays and also high friction costs. When I say friction costs, fees, commissions. And so what blockchain does is it takes out that need for that central authority that essentially polices the transaction in the simplest of terms. And so we're looking at actually, in essence, an open distributed ledger that can record a transaction between two parties in an about efficient, verifiable, and a permanent way. So once the blockchain is created, by design, you cannot change it after the fact. And this allows the creation of there are many opportunities. I think the ladies within the banks are looking very much what they can do. I'm on the supervisory board for a DAX company in payment. We're also looking, also in the banking space, but also what we can do from releasing credits. Or even you think about smart contracts. You're now able to release a smart contract without any type of human intervention. But I will say this about blockchain. Blockchain is still the technology itself is quite old. It's nothing new, per se. However, it's still very immature, I think, in its development journey. And we've not reached the point where we can truly scale it. With that said, though, I think it's still for companies to continue seeing how they can apply it, how they can disrupt their own business. I think this was actually even a term that was used to see what value that it actually can bring into the business. And then this comes now to my fourth trend. None of this would be possible without on-demand availability and shareability of computing and storage resources. What does that mean in layman's terms? The cloud. It would not be possible without cloud technology. And there's no doubt that there are few trends in IT that have impacted what we do than the rise of cloud computing. It has completely reshaped, in my world very much so, how we actually write, how we update, and how we deploy this software. We use many terms when we talk about cloud. And it's whether it's public, whether it's private, hybrid, and there's combinations all in between with specific offerings. And you can use all the terms in AWS, a Google Cloud platform, an SAP, and. It's not so much the vendors who is hosting it or where it's being hosted, but it's about the model itself. The cloud computing model has won. It is not new, but what we've moved is it's no longer about the one software provider, the one solution. We've moved into the world of multi-cloud. And this comes very much where on the vendor side, it's forced us to look at how actually the clouds can work together. It's forced us to look more on a notion of openness and how this all works to provide value for our customers. And luckily for you as a customer, what was once seen as somewhat of a weakness, how can you have so many different vendors creating this hodgepodge complexity? I say no more, right? It's that you as the consumers, the users, it's about opening your strategy and looking very selfishly the best way to create the value for your business. And then lastly, I come to my first one, which is not my last trend, which is not a technology per se, but is very much more about a unification approach to the technology. So we now all live in a world where this technology is just popping up. Something new can pop up. I say for me, my greatest fear, sitting in Waldorf, in Germany here, is, the technologies that we can't see, right? And as I said at the beginning, it's all about companies who can, or ladies actually said, but companies that can put customers at the center of everything that they do. And to create that unified customer experience. And to create that unified customer experience, you need to create these end-to-end processes that create that actual experience for the customer. There's a point where we used to talk about experience. Is it on mobile, bricks and mortar, augmented reality, all the buzzwords you can imagine? I no longer talk about that. It's about creating that seamless process for the customer. And that seamless process is something like what we actually saw Vanessa do. You will be actually engaging with, your traditional tablet. It could be environmental sensors. It could be, your cars. It could be so many ways that you'll now be able to just engage and interact with this technology. It's interesting, there was recently a survey for CEOs, and 80% felt that they provided a superior experience for their customers. 8% of their customers agreed. 8%. That is a huge gap, right? From that, what you believe you're doing to what is actually happening. And it's that gap that creates that, customer churn. It's that gap that creates the employee attrition, right? It's that gap that creates in the late delivery. And it's how can you, make sure that 88% is turning, coming much closer together. And it comes, as I said before and many times today, putting that customer in the center. It's understanding the what am I trying to solve, and then looking. There are so many different technologies that you can leverage, but then looking at how you can apply that for your business, what you do, and that competitive advantage for yourself, then to create value. So I'd like to now end with a quote from Douglas Adams. And he said, "Technology is the name for something that doesn't work yet." I have to disagree a bit, but it had a lot of pick-me-up. While all of these technologies have become market-ready, we already start to see them in some applications, platforms, etc. And some are more mature than others, definitely. We still have a long way to go. And what I do appreciate is that we have been able to already set out a vision of what some of these technologies will be able to enable. But technology, just by its nature, is disruptive. And, I can expect that along the way, as you look to 2019 and beyond, 2019 is almost over, there will be a number of surprises along the way. And I have to say, it's these surprises that personally I look forward to. And it's these surprises that I think all of you in the room as business leaders need to look out for. Because it would be a pity if we were to overlook the next microwave, or penicillin, or even Play-Doh that my children love so much. And all of that would have been because of the underlying technology. And that is why I love it so much. Thank you very much.